We have Nick Orochi with us, the Ashtabula County Prosecutor for not quite a year.
No. December. Almost 9 months.
But it's kind of a trial by fire or acclamation by fire there.
That's for sure.
I mentioned on the air the other day that your first day on the job was the day of the Ashtabula City Council. They were swearing in the new members. And you happened to be there, and so during the ceremony I kind of walked over and says, well, how's your first day? And you're kind of like, which is kind of the normal reaction, but what I didn't realize is that you had the Carla Haig thing that day. It's like, welcome to the job. You got a case where the judge's wife is trying to poison her husband. And from there on you've had lots of murders and
yeah.
Too many.
Yeah, that was an interesting first day. Actually, the weekend before I even took office, the sheriff and a few of his detectives were in my private law office briefing me on what was going on as part of this investigation. So on my first day in the prosecutor's office, my entire day was consumed with that case. And not only did we interview family members and certain witnesses, we also decided in the afternoon of my first day to arrest Carla Haig. So yeah, it was pretty crazy first day.
You must, yeah, in order to decide that you want to be county prosecutor, you must have to have like all your ducks in a row. Can I handle this? You have to make a lot of decisions, decisions that are going to be questioned, and
Sure.
there could be ramifications and court appeals and everything else. So.
No, I think honestly that 24 years of practice in private practice really has prepared me well for this job. I mean, I don't know how anybody without experience or sufficient experience could handle this type of job to make the decisions that we've had to make, and to change things the way I've been able to change things. I mean, without that experience, I don't know how anybody could handle it. So. Yeah.
You're kind of on the other side though now.
I am. Yeah.
Instead of trying to find them innocent, there's kind of a I don't know if the age-old question, but like there've been a lot of people like Judge Vettel was the county prosecutor first, and he's, I don't know, your mindset would you think would be they're guilty, and then all of a sudden you're the judge and you have to say, well, he may be guilty, he may not. There's all these positions, you know, you have to kind of change your mindset from what you're used to.
Well, I think that the criminal defense background gives me a great, puts me in a great position as prosecutor. You know, you can't think everybody's guilty. You can't have that mentality as prosecutor because you're unreasonable. You've got to look at the case objectively and see whether you can get a conviction on a certain case or a certain offense, and if you believe that you can, then you pursue it. But you just don't prosecute every crime just because you think they're guilty. I mean, so I think the criminal defense background gave me a great jump start with that. And I just didn't practice criminal cases in my private practice.
You had a whole bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So
you're going to practice law in Connie, and you can't specify a certain area too much, I would not think.
Right, exactly.
If you wanted to eat.
you hit it right on the head, yes, that's for sure.
Why don't you give a little background on yourself?
On myself?
Yeah, I imagine most people know, but...
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Conneaut, as you know, and attended Conneaut High School, graduated in '82, attended Miami University, that's in Oxford, and received my Bachelor of Science degree in accounting. And
really?
Yep. I wanted to be an accountant in high school and even through most of college, and then I decided I didn't want to be an accountant. But
that's what college is for, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's to help you decide what you don't want to do. And so I changed my my plans, but I didn't want to change my degree because I didn't want to stay in college any longer. So I decided to go to law school, went to the University of Toledo College of Law, and graduated in 1989 from UT, and started immediately out of law school working for a big firm in downtown Toledo.
That's right.
And I actually practiced environmental law.
That's back when they had water.
Well, they still have water.
It's just not real good stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, so I practiced environmental law for about 4 years with this one firm. Moved to another firm across the street, literally across the street, and practiced there for a couple more years in the environmental law area. And then I decided that environmental law wasn't for me, and I kind of got pigeonholed into an area of practice that I really didn't have much experience in and interest in. And frankly, I got lured by the money,
right?
By the big firm money to do the work they asked you to do, but I wasn't really happy.
Didn't see yourself spending your life doing that.
Exactly. So my wife, Lisa, the former Lisa Pataki,
right,
born and raised in Conneaut as well. Well, we decided to move back to Conneaut. We had 2 little ones at the time. They were 3 and 2, and so I hung up my shingle in downtown Conneaut, started my practice from scratch, and at the time I became an assistant prosecutor under Greg Brown. We were part-time prosecutors back then, so we were able to practice law on the side and also be an assistant prosecutor. So I got 2 years of experience in as a prosecutor then, and then I got just too busy with my law practice, and then just from that point on, which was in 1995, I decided to just continue practicing.
And you also been involved in a lot of organizations. You were on the school board. You ran for judge.
I did. I ran against Tom Harris in actually 1995.
Wow.
When I first moved back to town, and I decided that I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring. And in the midst of being a prosecutor, in the midst of starting my practice, in the midst of raising a family, I look back and I hit every door in town.
Really?
I knocked on every door, and I look back and I don't know how I did it, but I did. And Judge Harris, despite the fact that I challenged him, we have a very good relationship nowadays. And but yeah, I did throw my hat in the ring. I did serve on the school board for 9 years, and been involved in a lot of community organizations in town and throughout the county. So, you just can't be an attorney. In a small county, you just can't be an attorney. You have to be involved.
Right.
And
well,
it's just not an attorney, but most folks, they need to get involved.
90% of people, hopefully most people out there know your dad is Peter Rochi, who, when I started out, 2 or 3 years ago in the news business, something like that, he was a Conneaut councilman. Yes. And I remember the I don't know, it's called hullabaloo or something, when he was elected county commissioner, because it was the first time in like 50 years that somebody from, it seems crazy now to think of this, but he was like the first person from Conneaut to be on the county commissioner in many, many years.
Yes, yes, he was. And I'm very proud of my dad, both of my parents, but my dad kind of was the pace setter, and if it wasn't for him and my mom, and they gave me and our whole family a good name, and I've been able to use that name to attract business to my private practice and also to seek elective office. So.
Well, when you said I knocked on every door, I could see Pete telling you got to knock on every door.
Yeah, he did. You got to work, and they did instill in me a pretty good work ethic. So, but we do have my wife Lisa and I have 2 children. Mary will turn 24 in a few weeks, and she'll be getting her master's at John Carroll University in clinical mental health counseling in a few months. So she'll be a social worker. And my youngest daughter just got her first job. She graduated from Kent State in May, and she is an assistant buyer with DSW, a designer shoe warehouse out of their corporate office in Columbus.
We were talking a little bit about the Carla Haig thing, and it kind of got you into the job, and things haven't slowed down too much. We've had all kinds of murders, and I was at the hearing yesterday. Harold was there, your chief prosecutor, Harold Speck, and it was Ruth, Jermaine Ruth. He's charged in the shooting there on Fern Avenue. And I don't know, we had Rob Stell on the show a few days ago, and I posed this question to him because I can't understand this, but we have a lot of drug in crime, a lot of thefts and everything, but we have these murders, and it's like somebody didn't pay somebody some money, or somebody thought somebody was going to kill them because they didn't pay some money, so they killed the person first. And I can't understand why they always get caught. It's fairly obvious, I guess, who these people are. I'm not part of the investigation or anything, but what would go through their minds that think that I'm going to ruin the rest of my life? I'm going to spend the rest of my life in jail because of this. I mean, do you ever think about that?
Well, I think it's obvious that criminals are not the smartest individuals.
Yeah.
I mean, and they don't think right. They don't think rationally, and so when they're out to get somebody for giving them bad drugs, or for not paying them for drugs, or for whatever reason that they think that they should exact this revenge, they do things stupid. They don't think it all the way through. So I can't explain it. I don't think you're able to explain it, but it's just something that society has always had to deal with,
Right.
and we will always have to deal with it. I don't think what's going on in Ashtabula County is any different than what's gone on throughout the entire country or world, for that matter, in the past. So, but yeah, the increased number of shootings, of murders. We've had essentially 10 murders since the last week of November of last year. Now, my predecessor, Tom Sartini, had charged one murder. That was the murder of Bill Glover, Patrolman Bill Glover, 18 years ago.
Yeah.
He charged that as a capital offense. And after that, after charging and litigating that case, and it's still being litigated to this day, the Audrey Jones case.
Right.
He came to find out that it's just not worth charging these murders with capital offenses, because they're very expensive.
You have to get special attorneys.
They're special certified defense attorneys that have to be involved. But to be frank with you, when I took office with the double homicide that we had in late November, then the first double homicide was on Hiawatha. The second double homicide shortly thereafter was on Norman Avenue, involving the innocent family.
Right.
The 4-year-old child here in Conneaut. I decided that we needed to start sending a message. If that worked, I don't know, but we need to start sending a message and charging some of these as capital offenses. And so those 5 cases, I did seek a capital punishment specification with the grand jury, and they did indict on that. So we've got 5 of those 10 murders that are all being treated as capital offenses.
Although from our earlier discussion, and this isn't for or against capital punishment, but it isn't really a deterrent because they're not thinking stuff through anyway.
Right. Well, you hope to send the message, and
maybe somebody somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it does change the complexion of the case. There's no question. The case, when you add that capital offense specification, the entire face of the case changes, how it's handled from the start. And it is treated, not to say a murder case isn't treated seriously, it is, it's treated very seriously, but that capital specification makes it even more daunting, not just for the parties or the attorneys, but for the defendant.
Right. Well, in the case of Joshua Million, it started out as a capital case.
Right.
The family wanted it over with. It's not I don't know all the details, but correct me if that's correct. They came to you and said, we want this over with, and you kind of negotiated it that the man is going to, for all intent and purposes, he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Well, yeah, for all intents and purposes is correct. That he is spending the rest of his life in prison. There will be no parole. He will not see the light of day outside of a prison cell. And my office maintained consistent communication with the family to see how they wanted the case handled. And it was really the defense attorneys, Mr. Million's defense attorneys, who, once they received all of the evidence as part of discovery, came to the decision that, we ought not try this case. And they worked on their client to get him to agree to a life without parole sentence, and that's hard for any defendant
right.
to agree to, But when you have that, when you're facing the death penalty, the obvious resolution would be life without parole, and so he did agree in this case to a dismissal of the death spec, so that he would receive life without parole and avoid any kind of execution.
That was a case that had such a huge impact on everybody. I went to that candlelight vigil, and you saw all those police officers and all those firefighters. And I came back from that, and I know my family starts talking about, what do you want with your dinner? And it's like, I don't want to think about that kind of stuff. It's just, this was just such a huge impact. And
well, and it's, it's even more impactful when you know the people.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Laney's family members. Her mom I coached at CLYO. She was on my daughter's team, and I was her coach. And I even tell her to this day, I says, the only picture of me in the Star Beacon with being a coach was with you. And so there was a picture of me and Macy Powell in the newspaper a long time ago. So I go back a long time with this family, and yeah, it's hard to be the prosecutor and to prosecute cases with family members who have been impacted so greatly. But that's my job,
right?
And I take it very seriously, and I thought this was a very good resolution for all involved, to be honest with you.
I think with that, everybody starts thinking, at the time I had a 4-year-old grandson who's now 5. He was a co-host on the show earlier this week, and I thought about that, and I was in Harold Speck's office, and he had to show me a picture of his niece, who's 4 years old. Mm-hmm. And it was just, everybody could relate.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was a very difficult case to prosecute, but it doesn't even come close or compare to the to what the family had gone through.
Oh, sure.
And I do give a lot of credit to the county police department. I mean, without their work, this case would not have been resolved as well as it did.
So quickly,
exactly.
Really.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then we have I don't want to review all the cases, but the individual that's charged with beating his pregnant girlfriend.
Marquaid Brown.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's an unusual one. He had, the victim was, I think she was 17. Either 17 or had just turned 18. She was 8.5 months pregnant. And it's alleged that Mr. Brown physically assaulted her. She went into the hospital and got treated. She left the hospital, was released, and then continued to have problems. Within a very short time later, went back in the hospital and passed away shortly thereafter. So, yeah, our experts established that causal element where Mr. Brown's actions did in fact cause her death, and as a result, because the baby was viable at 8.5 months, we did charge him with the murder of the baby as well. So, yeah, it's an unusual case. It's a very, very sad case.
anybody that's ever looked at police reports or covers crime at all knows that so much, some people have said 90%, some people have said 95% of crime in this county has to do with drugs. If you watched the video that we showed earlier about the Ruth case, his preliminary hearing, it was all about somebody took 10 grams of cocaine and didn't pay for it. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be a murder case. It can be somebody broke into your garage and took your snowmobile because he sold it to buy drugs, or he went into an empty house and took out the plumbing to sell it for scrap to buy drugs. So it's big and small, so much gets traced back to drugs. So is there, rather than chasing every little thing that happens, is there a way to get to the cause of it? And one thing when Chief Stell was here, and I don't know if I don't agree with this particularly, but is there a way to take some of these drugs and put them in like a state liquor store thing and sell them legally and take the criminal element out if they're going to be using it anyway? Or, I don't know, something radically different than we're doing now that can get rid of the crime element in all of this?
You're talking about legalizing heroin?
Well, I don't know about heroin, but...
Yeah. No, I mean, let me just at the outset say that I'm absolutely against legalization of any drug.
Okay.
And that
not even marijuana?
Not even marijuana. And if you talk to the law enforcement folks who are in the trenches every day, they will tell you that marijuana is a precursor to other more serious illegal drug activity. So, you know, I have to agree with them, and all you have to do in the short time is see what's going on in Colorado. People are eating gummy bears with marijuana in them. Brownies and other food items have marijuana in them. Kids are starting to eat them. People are starting to fail to show up for work, or if they show up for work, they're not. They don't have the appropriate attention span that they need while working. I wouldn't want to work side by side with somebody who's high.
Or having back of you driving.
Exactly. I mean, there are definitely some societal effects that come from the legalization of drugs. But in my opinion, the way you attack it, because you can't jail everybody. Right. We do not have enough jails. We clearly do not have enough jail space in Ashtabula County. We only have 150 plus beds at our county jail. We have more than 300 people on the waiting list. And a lot of people don't know that, but it's ridiculous to think that we can incarcerate everybody. And so we attack it through education. And in the short time I've been in office, I've been able to see that where you attack it is at the early ages, as soon as those kids are in pre-K, kindergarten, and I'm trying to develop some kind of curriculum with the county superintendents to see what we can do in the county school districts to do just that.
Well, isn't like the DARE program been cut because of money problems?
Yeah, I mean the DARE program has gone by the wayside. There are some school districts who pay out of their general fund to fund a resource officer at their schools, but really the resource officers are there as a police officer.
Right.
I mean, there's not that drug education that we used to see with the DARE officers.
Well, Ed Sompe used to be full-time in county schools, exactly. That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. So you attack it from education. We have a wonderful program in Ashtabula County that was started by my predecessor Tom Sartini and Judge Al Mackey. It's known as the Drug Court, and we have about 35 to 40 of those who are part of the criminal element, who have been convicted of serious felony crimes, that are in this drug court program, and it's a lengthy treatment program. It could last anywhere between 18 and 24 months, where these people get intensive treatment. And if they fail, well, they're going to jail. But if they're successful, their charges could ultimately be dismissed. We graduated last month 6 people from the drug court program, and these people will tell you, and they said it at the graduation, that drug court changed their lives. And so it's the education component. You can't incarcerate everybody. You have to try to get people to understand that there are other things to this life. You can work, you can earn a living, you can be educated, and you can be a you can serve the community in which you live in a very positive way. And if people, the light bulb comes on, and once they get away from that addiction and away from the people that bring them down.
That's what I was thinking.
You know, it's
everybody you know sells drugs. Your big brother did, so.
Get away from that element.
Yeah.
I tell people, don't hang around with that crowd if you're going to change your life. And they all agree, and those that have been successful have been able to change the crowd in which they're hanging around with. So yeah, it's all about education, in my opinion.
They have the drug culture. They all have their own street names, and I don't.
Oh yeah, yeah, they do. We joke about it because you have to laugh.
Oh,
we
yeah.
try to laugh at doing this work, and we joke about all the street names out there. We can't keep track of, you know, who Stank is, and Spanky, and Shank, and you know, I mean, they all got these names, and they're all in different areas of the county, but that's what they call each other.
Yeah. Well, also, I keep referencing Chief Stell because I guess, you know, crime, people involved in crime, I don't know if that's an appropriate term there, but there was a program in Ashtabula that he was talking about that happened. It was the same day as the Fern Avenue killing.
Right.
Ironically, but it brought in a lot of potential or previous bad guys, and they were kind of set down and told what they were doing wrong and given alternatives, which is good.
Right. Yeah, that was part of the Attorney General's Safe Neighborhood Initiative. We had started working on developing that initiative here in the city of Ashtabula and really countywide.
We're getting a phone call.
Sure,
and we can,
absolutely.
We'll go back.
Yep.
Oh, there we go. If you want to call back, I'm sorry, I saw the light turn, but you can call back. Go ahead.
But we had started that initiative, planning for this initiative several months ago. And I think Ashtabula was either the 4th or 5th city throughout the state of Ohio that was going to have this initiative. And
it was invited by the Attorney General's office.
Right.
They came to the city of Ashtabula.
Right. Well, actually, they came to the city of Ashtabula on invitation by the city manager and Chief Stell, and so yeah, so they came, and we had planned this program, and what we do is we invite those who are part of the criminal element who we know are either on probation or serious offenders, and who arm themselves, who have guns, to come. You know, we aren't going to arrest you, we aren't going to do anything, we just want you to listen. And so they came and sat in the jury box, and so several speakers basically sent them the message to stop the violence, put your guns down.
So what kind of people were there? Not the criminal elements, but the people that talked to them.
Well, we had the Attorney General's office, we had myself as county prosecutor, we had a U.S. attorney, an assistant attorney who talks about the difference between state and federal crimes and sentencing associated with that. We had a medical person, I forget his name, he was from ACMC, the emergency room, and he showed the ugly parts of being shot. You know,
are there nice parts of being shot?
Well, yeah, really, good point. But there were pretty graphic photographs of the effects from those who were shot. There was one where somebody had their intestines hanging out. I mean, it was they were very graphic. So,
hello, you're on the air.
Good morning, Bob and Mr. Irochi. This is Marty Landon.
Hey, Marty.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hey, Nick, I've been listening, and years ago, Don Frick used to be the juvenile probation officer for Ashtabula County. And I used to volunteer with Don. He was a good friend of mine, and I volunteered. And I used to take a busload of teenagers down to Marion Correctional Institution for a Scared Straight program. I believe it was called Checkmate. Do they still have that?
I don't believe they do, Marty.
Okay.
But you know, that would be part of the juvenile court process, and while I do have an assistant prosecutor that works at a juvenile court, I don't have any control over juvenile court and what they do, because Mr. Frick was an employee of juvenile court at that time. So
yeah, I know. And why I'm bringing this up is, I used to go down. I went down there with Don or with another probation officer, probably 5 or 6 times. And the kids that we were taking down there were on probation, and they've been in a lot of trouble. And I always felt that it was like almost too late for those kids, because I'm a firm believer in prevention rather than rehabilitation. And I always I got the idea that I think that kind of a program should be almost like a mandatory program for every school kid, to go through that Checkmate program and see what it's like, and maybe stop them before they start getting in trouble.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. That's why I really think we should be focusing even at the early ages of kindergarten or pre-K.
Right.
Because
well,
I agree with you. Prevention is where it's at.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, kindergarten, there's a lot of programs you could do at that age, but that Checkmate program, that would be a great program for like a 9th graders. Sure. Every 9th grade student would have to go through that program and see what it's like in them prisons, and maybe change their mind before they start, getting into that element.
Yeah, I agree with that, Marty, but the reality is that you educate a 9th grader and they go home to the same thing that they were the night before, or the day before, or the week before, or the month before, where their parents are using, or they're in a single parent home and they're
right.
That one parent is using, and it's just a bad lifestyle
yeah.
that they're surrounded by, and you try to teach them right from wrong, and I'm certain that Checkmate program would tell them that this is not where you want to be, but when you're living in that situation day in, day out,
yeah, I understand.
But if you got 1 out of every 10,
exactly,
that would help.
Yes.
Right.
No, I'm all for
Nick,
ideas,
Nick,
Marty.
I want to thank you for what you're doing. I feel I know Mr. Sartini. I wasn't real close to him, but I feel very comfortable with you in that office right now, and I just want to thank you for what you do for the county.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you,
right.
buddy. I hope, and thanks for all you do, Marty.
Right.
Thanks, Marty.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we've got the pictures of people with their intestines hanging out.
Yeah. Well, so they got to see firsthand.
I'll tell you, you're popular here.
Oh, okay.
You're on the air.
Yes, this is for Mr. Irochi.
Yes.
When you get up in the morning and you're putting your nice suit on to go in to do your job, did you ever just want to say the heck with this suit and tie and just want to wear jeans and a t-shirt?
Every day. Every day.
All right.
Unfortunately, I have to be in the courtroom virtually every day, and judges don't take kindly to jeans and t-shirts. So,
well, maybe they have them on under their robes and you just don't know it.
Yeah. But yeah, I would enjoy the opportunity to do that, but I don't. And then when folks come and visit, whether it's a client that's a township trustee or an elected official, I think they would appreciate their attorney to look appropriate.
Well, I'm sure that would be the case.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you have a nice day.
You too, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Kind of reminds me, the court yesterday, not any of the attorneys or anything, but one of the spectators has a t-shirt on that says, "My foot hurts from kicking so much." I thought that was a very appropriate t-shirt to wear for court.
Yeah. Yeah, we had in our recent murder trial that I tried during jury selection, one of the jurors, the prospective jurors, wore a shirt to jury selection on a murder case that said, "I ain't no role model. I ain't no role model." And then folks wondered why we decided to excuse that potential juror from the jury pool. So, yeah, it's, you know, if you're going to appear for a proceeding, especially to serve as a juror in a potential murder case, you want to dress appropriately.
I want to get into prosecutor structure a little bit, and I want to talk about a few other things like Spark. So maybe we'll take a real quick break and then we'll try to get back. Oh, we got a phone call. We'll take the phone call here. Hello, you're on the air.
Yes, I'd like to ask Mr. Arochi there. They have zero tolerance for sex offenders between how close they can be to schools, and they have to be registered if they're convicted. Now, is there a registry for convicted drug abusers or dealers?
No, there's not.
I think it would be, if you don't know, you know your neighbor is or isn't a sex offender, why can't we do that with the drugs?
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Because the drugs right now, I think, are outdoing the sex offenders.
Oh yeah, by far.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, you know, they shouldn't be able to live within so close to a school, or, you know, what's funny is you go to a bar or you go anywhere you want to go to, there's a logo on the door that you're not allowed to have a gun, you can't smoke, but it doesn't say anything about doing drugs.
Mm-hmm.
There's no logo up there for that.
Mm-hmm.
There should be one there, say, at the library, or if you even go to Township Park, there's no alcohol, no dogs. But that doesn't say you can't do drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, whether it's nationwide or Ohio-wide or whatever, there isn't one.
But there are places you can smoke, and there are places you can bring your dog, but no places you'd be taking drugs. So I guess
Right.
no drugs is a given.
Right. Yeah, it's what I see every day is people are. There are so many people out there that are on drugs, that have drugs in their possession. They're cooking meth. And we still have a serious meth problem in Ashtabula County. They're cooking meth in their car because they don't want to cook it in a residence. So they're trying to make it as mobile as possible. They're cooking meth while they're walking and down the street with in their backpack. Yeah, I mean, it has become so prevalent in our society that, geez, to enforce that kind of thing would be almost insurmountable.
Well, I'm surprised that you can't go to a computer and actually look that up to see who moves into a neighborhood, or if you wanted to move into a neighborhood that had 2 or 3 convicted drug dealers in it.
But you could go online and look up the person's name and see if he's ever been convicted of something. I mean, you can do that now.
Well, if you know their record in Ashtabula County, you could.
Right.
But the only people that have access to somebody's record throughout the entire country would be a prosecutor's office or a law enforcement.
Just call Nick.
Yeah. But no, I would agree with you. I think that's a great point, and that would happen at the legislative level. Where, you know, somebody like John Patterson or Capri Cafaro, maybe the state legislature could consider that type of thing, but
Well, we give you a tool too,
sure.
and I don't care for that drug stuff at all. It keeps getting closer and closer.
Yeah.
It's already in Conneaut, but it's not as bad. And where you would get more involved in is where they try to get the money to buy the stuff.
Right.
Whether it's in my house or anybody's house or in your car. I mean, there's a lot of side effects to the addictions.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have a daughter that's an RN that works with these drug people, and she has one patient that checks in with her, and he's been clean off of heroin for 5 years, but he still craves it.
Yeah.
So it's
They're gonna do
hard.
that the rest of their lives.
All righty.
All
Hey,
right.
thank you.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about the structure of the prosecutor's office. How many people are employed and that sort of thing.
I have a total of 23 employees. We have we have 6 attorneys, assistant prosecutors who work on the criminal side. And they handle all the criminal cases, both in Eastern County Court, that's in Jefferson, in Western County Court, that's in Geneva, and at the felony level. I also have 3 attorneys who handle the civil side.
Mm-hmm.
What most folks don't know about this job is that we represent all of the elected officials, all of the departments and boards, county boards. We represent all of the townships. That means all of the 27 township trustees.
Because they don't have a law director or anything, so you're essentially the law director.
Right. So, and I mean 27 townships, and each township has 3 trustees.
Yeah.
All of their zoning officials. So we serve as legal advisor to them, and we have a very busy civil side of the office. I kind of balance my time half and half, so I spend a lot of my time on the civil side, in addition to managing the office.
So are you down in the trenches at all?
Oh yeah, I still do legal research. I still write opinions to those who are requesting, in addition to my other staff. My office also handles all of the tax foreclosures, delinquent tax. We represent the county auditor and county treasurer on those foreclosures. I'm familiar with this bunkhouse situation, and I even gave my little bit of advice to Mr. Church, and even sent an email to Pat Williams the other day about what's going on. So
what is the opinion on the bunkhouse?
the state of Ohio does not own the bunkhouse. I don't know, I keep reading in the paper that certain people are saying that the state of Ohio owns the bunkhouse. The state of Ohio has the legal right now to offer it for sale at a foreclosure or forfeiture proceeding. But the bunkhouse is still owned by the original owners.
And he or she is responsible for the condition of the building.
Exactly. Yeah. And if the city or board of health wants to pursue some kind of demolition, they can do that. But at this point, I just get I'm getting this word that the state of Ohio, they can't do anything because the state of Ohio owns the building. That's not the case. The state of Ohio does not technically own the building.
Okay.
The deed is not owned by is not in the state of Ohio's name. So.
Okay.
But yeah, we have a very busy office, and I've got a great staff, so it's. I show up every day.
And you got your shirt and tie on?
I got my shirt and tie on, and I'm ready to work every day, and I do enjoy it.
So if you would have known, this is not to downgrade or anything, but I can't remember who it was, but I asked some county official, why did you decide on Nick to appoint him to the position? And the answer was, nobody else wanted it.
Well,
I mean, I don't think that was an indictment on you,
right.
but so it's a tough job, and you find that out. So if you would have had it over a year ago at this time, you're probably thinking about it maybe. Would you have?
Well, I mean, I had some previous experience in that office.
Yeah.
Of course, back in 1995 and 96, we were all part-time assistants.
Right.
But no, I had an idea of what the office, how the office is managed, and what it takes to run the office. And having practiced here in a small county, you kind of have an idea.
Sure.
So No, I knew going into this job, eyes wide open, what it was about, and it's everything that I thought it would be. You know, the crime has certainly been a challenge. I mean, with the increase
you didn't
in
quite
crime.
expect maybe 10 murders like that.
Right, exactly. But no, it's everything I expected it to be, and I just appreciate the opportunity. This was a good transition for me in this point in my career.
It must be nice to try to make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. And after 25 years of practicing law, this was a good time for a transition for me and my family. Now that my girls are gone and essentially on their own, and it's just my wife and I, this was a good transition for me.
Now, when you're thinking the pros and cons of the job, were you thinking, would this make a good, fun Friday?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't succeed in making this a fun
People
Friday.
need to educate. I know. I think I've got some interesting guests in talking about. We have Chief Stell and his perspective on this, and like I say, and we've had other guests on other things that I thought were interesting. Like we had the trustees from Harpersfield on talking about all the stuff going on in I-90 there in Geneva and the jet agreement and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on the western side of the county is amazing.
It is.
Yeah, I mean that 534 corridor is just booming, and yeah, it would be nice to move a little bit of that success on this side of the county.
Definitely.
So, yeah. I have to say that you mentioned my dad being the first county commissioner from Conneaut.
I think I can't remember at the time, but it seemed like it was like since 1915, and the fact that Conneaut was the second largest city in the county, that seemed crazy.
Yeah. I can't honestly remember who in recent memory was from Conneaut that was the county prosecutor.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Let's. You're on the air.
Morning, Bob. Morning, Nick. This is Tom Smile.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
Did you hear my rant yesterday?
What's that?
I had a rant yesterday.
I still didn't hear you. I'm getting out.
I was ranting yesterday about. We got a train coming in?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I got a train going by my house.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's all
My
right.
question is to Nick. You know, I'm on the board of tourism for Conneaut. What could we do to bring some of that development to our site? I'm just asking you what you think that would help to bring more development to Conneaut, because I know you're a Canutian and you care about your town as well as your county, but I just wondered what you thought about that, and I'll kind of hang up and let you ramble on that for me.
Thanks,
Thank
Tom.
you.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, in my position as prosecutor, I don't get involved in the economic development side of things other than to provide any legal advice.
You can't indict somebody for not locating.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I did serve on the County Port Authority for a few years. But, Tom, honestly, it's a team, it's got to be a team mentality. I mean, what I found even at the county level is there's too many fractional divisions going on. I mean, people, if they just get together and work together as a team, and that means the Board of Tourism, City Council, Chamber, everybody getting together and formulating a plan that, and everybody sticking to that plan and working together.
That's exactly what Harpersfield Geneva did.
Exactly.
And that's what was emphasized when they were on the program. Mm-hmm. You know, the public officials in Geneva, the city manager there, Jim Pearson, and Jennifer Brown, the assistant, and the three trustees, and they worked together and came up with solutions, and that's
exactly. Yeah, it's got to be a team approach. Now I'm gonna maybe say something that maybe a politician, and I don't even like calling myself a politician, but a politician like myself probably shouldn't say, but if the city of Conneaut is going to succeed at economic development, then the focus should be on economic development. And you shouldn't have a city manager who is spending his time filling potholes or worrying about this fight over in a neighborhood or that fight. You should have a position at the city level, or even in partnership with the Port Authority, that is focused on economic development. You know, you have in Geneva an assistant city manager who is supposed to be focusing on economic development. and I think they share her time. She shares her time with the city manager,
Right.
Jim Pearson. But they've made a priority in Geneva to say, hey, look, how can we attract businesses here? I mean, rather than going through the minutia of running city government, what can we do beyond that minutia to make things happen here? Well, Geneva has made that a priority, and they've committed resources to that, and look what's happened. And I think the same thing can happen in Conneaut. It just takes that prioritization.
You're talking about working together and having a common goal and stuff. I know Jennifer Brown, the assistant city manager in Geneva, she didn't tell me this, but somebody else did. You know, they have the pairings there downtown, and somebody told me that she was there every weekend working.
Yeah, she was.
Just on her own.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a dedicated.
Very dedicated.
It's not you know, you're there for the cameras and then.
Right. But Conneaut has a lot to offer. This side of the county has so many assets that, you know, and for years we've always talked about how much we could do here to make things happen, and it just never seems to come to fruition.
Hello, you're on the air.
I'm just calling back to respond to Nick there. I think you hit the ball right on the head. That's the reason I asked you that question, is because I think we need to come up with a game plan. And I think things are starting to turn around where, like, Nick's trying to clean up the town and get things. Because if you drive down in Geneva, for example, when I go for my doctor's appointment, everything's nice and clean. You go down their main streets and they're clean. The houses are kept up to a point. You know, I mean, they're not everything's a mansion, but everything's kept up, like with painting on them and so forth. The yards are mowed and so forth. And I think that's what Conneaut needs to do here, is they need to show a little pride in their community.
I think that is happening to a point.
What's that?
I think that is happening to a point.
Yes, I do. That's why I think things are starting to turn around, and that's the reason I asked Nick, because I pride myself in asking intelligent people intelligent questions, and I think Nick's a pretty smart fella. Yeah, I do. And so I just wanted you to push that out there and pose that question to you, and I think that's basically right there. All right, Nick, I'll let you go today, and I'll see you down at the park.
Okay, Tom, thank you.
Okay, buddy. Bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye.
This might be a good segue into one thing that I want to at least touch upon, and you've been here for a while, and we appreciate that. There is one good thing happening in Conneaut. Well, I'm sure there's many more than one, but the Spark Complex. That is an example of people working together and putting something together with donations and all that. It's not tax money. There was a need for it, and I'm sure you've been down there. I've run the track. I walked it with my grandsons last week. I was out biking one day, and I was thinking, I'm going to go by and see what that track looks like. And I thought, well, what the heck? I'm there. I might as well go out and run it while I'm there. And it's a very nice facility.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I was on the school board when we decided to close the municipal stadium abruptly because of falling debris and bricks.
Right.
That when we decided to demolish the stadium, and it is amazing what has happened since then. And there was a group of us, of about 6 of us, that sat down and said, what can we do? And it was about 4 or 5 years ago when we decided, what can we do to change things, at least from a sports facility standpoint. And I look back, and it's amazing what's been accomplished there.
And anybody that hasn't gone by there.
Yeah, and there's still a lot more to go.
Yes.
I mean, we need tennis courts. And
Yes.
then the committee, along with the school board, is working on that, and of course the field house and other things. But yeah, Mr. Amy and Mr. and Mrs. Amy, Kent Houston, who's been really the go-getter in all of this. He's been the glue to hold us all together, and a lot of other people.
You have to give credit to Kent Houston, and I asked him, you're retiring, is this like your legacy? And he's like, oh, we're just doing this because it needs to be done. And you know, he doesn't looking for any.
It's amazing that our kids have not had a home track meet for 10 plus years.
Isn't that, yeah.
And
we were allowed to let that happen.
How embarrassing is that? I mean, and now to look over and to see a beautiful track facility that these kids can actually be proud of, and you know, invite other teams, and maybe we can have a tournament and whatever. I mean, it's just awesome to think that that we're at that point now. So and there, you talk Tom Smiley, you talk about teamwork. That took teamwork, and we all worked together to make it happen. But there's still a long way to go. So,
Right.
yeah,
But that proves people in Conneaut, this side of the county, can
exactly.
work together and do something. So.
Right, exactly.
All right. Well, I know you've got other things going on today,
I do.
but we covered a lot of ground. Before we let you go, the phone was ringing. I wanted to let you finish a thought before answering the phone. So if somebody real quick has a phone call, we'll take it. Otherwise, we're going to wrap things up. 593-7181. Why don't we walk out the phone warning? I'll answer. I'll figure out what it is you would have said.
Okay.
But thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for the opportunity, and have a happy weekend, everyone.
Okay.